Hey, good morning, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. All right, let me get my microphone in a good spot so you can hear. Thanks for joining. We are going to be diving into today's question in our 20 questions to reinvent your life. If you don't have the workbook yet, here's how you can grab it. So go ahead and grab that. We have been diving in every single day, going over one of the questions. The workbook is great because it gives you a chance to journal, keep track of everything, be able to go back, reference it. If you missed any of the videos, they are all here wherever you are watching. So whether it's YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, we have all the videos on there for you. Easiest is probably if you go into YouTube, there's a playlist and you'll see all of the videos starting on day one. Okay. If you are watching the replay, or if you're watching here now live, if you're watching the replay or live, then let me know where you're coming in from, where you found us. And is this your first question or have you been doing all the questions with us? So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the corner so you guys can find that if you need it anytime during today's session. And we've covered a lot. We've covered, reflection about ourselves, our core values, what brings us joy, our skills, our talents. We spent a long time talking about like where our resources, our beliefs, our support system. And then yesterday, we kind of dove into what is my current lifestyle and my environment, and is that conductive to the changes I want to make? And we talked about the word conductive. That conductive really means, does it support, does it lead, does it provide, the changes that you're wanting to make? And so today, we're going to kind of build upon that question. And the question today is, what adjustments can I make to create a more supportive atmosphere for my reinvention? And so we did touch on this yesterday. We talked about, how we can change that, but we want to take a deeper dive in today, in that when we're talking about our reinvention, when we're talking about creating our best life, creating that dream life, the one that is out there for you, what are the things that you can do? How can you make small adjustments in your space that becomes more supportive, that are going to aid you in that? We tend to do things that are easy and we tend to shy away from things that are hard, right? So the more we can set ourselves up for success and create an environment that's going to have more ease in it, the more likely we'll be able to achieve those things that we want to do. Okay, so first is, yesterday we really needed to take inventory and say, well, what in my environment is not supporting my success? And we use the examples of, I want to eat healthy, but my refrigerator and my pantries are filled with sugar and candy and processed foods, right? Or I really want to start a business, but I have no dedicated workspace to do that. Then we don't have an environment that's set up for that. We also talked about just the environment with our friends, right? We talked about, who are you hanging out with? Who's in your ear? Who are you listening to? If you have these big goals, but everybody that you're talking to doesn't, or they think goals and dreams are crazy, that's probably not a conductive environment, right? So what are the small steps that you can do? So one of the things that I really like to do, and I think an exercise that works really well, and I use this a lot with people that I'm coaching, is we kind of go to the end in mind. I say, okay, so if you could kind of picture your dream environment, picture what would your home look like? What would your car look like? What would your office space look like? What would that environment be like? And start with that kind of vision, that end vision. And you just start to journal, right? What would it look like? What would the colors be? How would you feel in that space? Also, if you looked at your calendar, what would your life look like at that point? What would your lifestyle look like at that point if it was really supporting the best version of you? You know, uh, Again, we talked about, like, if your lifestyle is, I want to get really healthy and I maybe don't want to be drinking alcohol every day and I really want to be fit, but you look at your calendar and you go, okay, every single day after work, I go to happy hour. That lifestyle isn't supporting what you want. So today, I want you to think about the end, that dream life. So if you're watching, you can kind of pop in the chats, or if you're watching the replay, I do go back and read all the questions and answer. But what's different? What's different in the picture of what you would love? Now, we have a physical environment. What's different about our physical environment around us? And maybe you go, wow, I really need to, I'm in a place that's just not conducive to the lifestyle I want. And for some people, guys, this is a dramatic change. If you listened to Corey Michelle, she was my first guest on my podcast. She went through a dramatic reinvention where she literally left the United States and moved to Australia to, like, go be on the beach in Australia. She was there on vacation, stood there and was like, this is where I need to be living. I mean, her reinvention was this dramatic reinvention of her life. I know for me, I go through these phases and I've had them my whole life where all of a sudden I will feel like I need to move all the furniture in my bedroom or I need to reorganize all the furniture in my living room. And this has been throughout my life, about every few years. And I've always thought, why is that? That's so strange. Why do I need to organize or change the direction of my bed on a regular basis? Um, and then I was working with somebody who does energy work, and they said it's more about that you shift the energy space. That when you start to feel stuck, when you start to feel like this environment, the energy in here is stuck, simply by moving your furniture around can kind of clean out that energy and reinvent you in a new space. And I thought, wow, that really makes a lot of sense. Usually it's been when I'm going through a life transition or a change, all of a sudden I want to change the direction of my desk. I want to change the direction of my bed because it's about that shifting out that energy. Sometimes, guys, even just going in and cleaning out your clothes, particularly as women, go into your closet. And I went through a season where I would go into my closet and I would look at the clothes that were in there. And I would think, if I was, the most successful version of myself, if I was the person at the top of my career, would I choose to wear this? There was a season years ago, it's probably maybe even 15 years ago. And I was trying to hit another level in my career. And it was something that I was like, okay, well, I want to be at this level. I didn't feel like I was successful enough to be at that level, but I had this goal that I was working on. And I would literally get up in the morning, I would look in my closet, and I would think to myself, if I was at this level, what would I wear today? And whatever it was that I thought that was, that's what I would wear, because I wanted my environment, I wanted my clothing to reflect who I was growing into. And I thought, well, if it doesn't make me feel like $1,000,000, then why am I wearing it? And I still do that now. Now, I'm not a big shopper. I really don't enjoy buying clothes. I don't like them all. I will say, when I do purchase an outfit, though, I really think to myself, does this make me feel like the best version of myself? Does this make me feel like the most successful version of myself? And if it doesn't, I don't purchase it, even if it's on clearance, even if it's on sale. I think as women, we tend to think, but it's a great deal, I should grab it because it's a great deal. It's not a great deal if it doesn't make you feel like the best version of yourself. It's just not, right? It's a bad deal then. So it might be your reinvention is looking in your environment, going into your closet and starting to go, I need to get rid of this. Or how many of us, and I'm guilty of this, we keep those clothes that you're like, someday I'm going to fit back into that. Someday my, 40 some odd year old body is going to be the same body in my 20s. Like, we just have to kind of have a come to Jesus moment and go, okay, maybe not, right? Because there's a clearing out of that, of holding the past, of saying, I'm letting go of all those past expectations, disappointments, whatever those feelings are around that. And I'm reinventing myself into the new best version of me. This is the best version of me. And this is what that looks like. And so it might be just a physical going through your wardrobe. It might be something silly like going through your desk drawers. Maybe there's a lot of old stuff in there that's reminiscent of past goals and dreams and things that you didn't achieve. And every time you open it up, you look at it and you go, ugh. How many of you ever done a vision board or a goal poster? Now, those are two very different things. And we probably could do a session in Hey Girl You Can about this, about the difference between a goal poster versus a vision board. But if you have one and it's more than like a year old and none of those things are happening, take it down. It's time to do a new one. Because what happens is every time you look at it, your environment is just like, haha, guess what you didn't do? You're such a loser. You still haven't hit any of those goals, right? How does it make you feel? Does it energize you? Do you feel like, yes, I'm going for these things? Or do you look at that and go, oh gosh, I can't believe it's a whole year and I haven't done any of that stuff, right? When my daughter was little, we used to do goal posters every single year because every year it was a fresh start to say, okay, what do we want to work on this year? And sometimes goals were transferred over from past years, but it was always this fresh start. So what is it that you're looking at? I would also say that for some of us, if you're in a season of your life where you feel like your glory days were here, this is when all the good stuff happened. My daughter was just talking about this. She was hanging out with somebody and the parent, all they do is talk about their glory days in high school. And she was saying, that's the only conversation. And I thought, there's such a dynamic there, right? Because we can go back to who that was. And there's almost like a grief and a loss of those times. But it stops us from stepping into the possibilities and the goodness of who we are now and what we're creating now. So even something as simple, if everything that you see in your house is a reminder of the glory days and nothing is about who you are now, that can kind of trap us in this past of like like a regret or a remorse or a sadness. Now that's not to say that we don't want things in our past, right? That we don't want things like I have, on my wall over here, I have all these badges from conferences and stuff that I've been on, and I have awards hanging all over, on this side of my wall of different achievements. Like we want to recognize and celebrate our success. It's about how it makes us feel mentally. If looking all of that stuff just reminds you of where you aren't now, that's where the problem is. So it's not the item itself, it's how does it make you feel, right? It's how do you feel about yourself when you see this? Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel confident about yourself? Or does it make you feel bad about yourself? And really becoming aware of that, really becoming aware of how is my environment making me feel? When I get up in the morning, if I wake up and the first thing I see is all of this clutter around my bedroom and I think, oh, I have so much to do. I have so much to clean. And you feel this burden as soon as you wake up, that environment is not setting you up to jump out of bed, face the day, and feel really great. I will tell you, I'm going through this right now. We have a bathroom. Whoever designed this bathroom clearly it could not have been a woman. Let me just say that. It has zero storage space. It is the most ridiculous bathroom there's no place to put shelving that would work. There's no place to put a drawers or anything that would work. There's no storage. It's horrific. And I keep going, what do I want to do with all this stuff? So right now I've just had on my counter all my stuff kind of cluttered up. And every time I get up there in the morning and I go into the bathroom, it annoys me. It annoys me. I'm like, what are we going to do with this? I am deciding whether or not I want to get a vanity or if I want to put shelves in. I haven't decided yet. It's been like this for a few months now. And it's annoying. And so it does not start my day in getting up and feeling like this is the best version of me. It gets me up and starts my day. And I feel like this is the most cluttered, disorganized version of myself. Right. And that's why it needs to change, not because of the clutter. It's because of how it makes us feel. And most of us become numb to how we feel. And that allows us to become numb to our goals, our dreams, our hopes, the bigger things that we're here and you're designed to create and do. Okay. So there is the physical inventory that we need to take through. Now, maybe you say, wow, Tara, if you came into my house, you would be overwhelmed with how much has to be cleaned out. Well, here, let's take some suggestions on that then. Number one, start listening to podcasts about people who deal with organization. My girlfriend, Stephanie, she has one. Her business is called The Organized Flamingo. And she has a great podcast. And she just gives very simple, easy to do tips to kind of declutter your life. Because what happens is when your environment is cluttered, our brain is cluttered. Okay. And when our brain is cluttered, then we're unable to really focus on our next steps and where we want to go and the path we want to go on. So maybe this is your year. Maybe this is your year where you go, okay, every week I'm going to unclutter, one drawer or one closet or, one room or whatever. And by the end of the year, you now have created an environment to step into the best version of yourself. So there's our physical environment. Then there's our people environment. It's the people that we're surrounding ourselves with. So, where is the majority of your input coming from? Is it positive? Is it negative? Or is it neutral? And so one activity that you can do, and you can take this and put this in your journal. Okay. You can write this down in your journal. Think about the majority of people, places, and, when I say input, I mean where you're getting stuff into your brain. So this could be your social media. This could be the news that you watch, the television shows that you watch. Like, make a list of these are all of the places that are inputting for me. These are the people who are inputting to me. These are the shows that I'm listening to. This is the, environment that I'm going to. Like, make yourself a list. And then next to that list, you're going to either give it a positive. This positively contributes to me. When I'm in this space, when I'm getting this input, I feel good. I feel energized. I feel peaceful. I feel calm. I feel excited. Like it creates a positive in my life. Or this is a negative. When I'm getting this input, I feel tired. I feel drained. I feel anxiety. I feel stress, right? It's a negative. I just had this actually last night. I was aware of this. I'm very, very sensitive to violence. I have a core value. We did this in one of our first questions on nonviolence. So anything that has to do with violence, particularly like assault against women, I become hyper sensitive to. I'm not actually sure where this stems from. I very fortunately, am not somebody who's been affected by a sexual assault or violence. I did go through domestic violence. I don't know if it's from that, but my domestic violence compared to what I've seen with other people as far as the physical, mine, as soon as it got physical, I got out of that relationship. So I'm not quite sure. I've done a little kind of self-reflection of like, why do I have this deep, deep core value for nonviolence, and why is it so jarring for my constitution and my energy? But it is. And so I was on Twitter yesterday and I was just scrolling, and a couple of things came up that were about violence and violence about women. And I instantly felt like I almost felt a little nauseous. I felt my body tighten up. I started to feel a little anxious, and I had to become super aware of, oh gosh, I have to close it. I have to shut this down. I have to shut this down. I'm physically reacting in a way that is not serving me. Right. And so I think we have to walk a fine line between, we don't want to be ignorant to the world and what's happening and going on in the world. We also need to protect our peace and our space, and how much can we take in? So this is where I'm saying, like, a positive or a negative. How do you feel? Okay. How do you feel when you leave work with those coworkers? How do you feel after you leave that afternoon with your family members? How do you feel after you leave the PTA meeting? Right? So is it a positive or a negative? And then if it's a neutral, and I would venture to say that most things are not neutral. Most things are not neutral. If you're putting for neutral for a lot of things, I would say that's probably more a lack of awareness than actually neutral. But you may have a couple of things that are kind of like, yeah, I don't know that it really affects me either way. Right? Now, with it in black and white in a list, you can actually go through and say, okay, if this is a negative, if this is contributing negative into my life, what are my choices here? And you might say, well, this is something that I can't really, I can't, this might be a person that I can't change, right? Like maybe this is my job and I have to show up and these coworkers are super negative and I leave there and I don't feel great and it's negative. Well, now you have some choices, right? So your choices are, I'm going to continue at that job. My choices are, I'm going to look for another job because I need to change my working environment, right? My choices are, I am going to continue to stay there, but I'm going to come up with some strategies to limit my impact, with other people, to kind of maybe isolate myself a little bit, right? Like, you have choices. They may not all be great choices, but you'll have choices on how you want to deal with that. And sometimes just even being aware, like, let's say you're in an environment in your job, which you just know this is not bringing out, you love the job, but the people do not bring out the best in you. And you're not willing to give up that job. It's a great job. You love the job, the work itself, but you're aware that this is a negative environment. What you can do then is you can say, okay, I need to then on the other side proactively make sure that when I leave that environment, I'm kind of pouring some good positive stuff on myself when I leave. And you can kind of visualize, like, I walk out of this environment and I feel maybe dark and brown and sad. What can I do to pour some sunshine and some sunlight on myself that will brighten me up before I head home? And that could be something as silly as, I'm going to make sure I love, let's say you love books and you're like, I'm going to listen to great audiobooks on my way home that make me feel good by the time I get home. Or I'm going to listen to a really affirming, uplifting, positive podcast on my way home. Or maybe a comedy podcast to shift my mind. I'm going to go listen to some comedy podcasts on the way home. So by the time I get home, I'm laughing. My dopamine's a little bit higher. I feel a little better. I was able to kind of, but it's like a Taylor Swift. I know there's lots of controversy on Taylor Swift. Should I even say her name? But like a shake it off, right? Like, I'm just going to shake it off so that when I get home, I'm not bringing that negative environment into my home. Right. There's even there's people who practice, if you believe in energy work, they say if somebody left your home and they're really negative, you should like shake out the pillows and shake out the, shake out the couch and just move that energy that's in the air. And guys, this isn't a woo-woo. Like, if it comes down to science, we are spinning. If you bring us down to what we are as humans, we are spinning bundles of energy, and our energy does affect other people's energy, and we leave our energy and it comes with us. And so you don't need to be some, like, I'm not a new agey, kind of person. I'm just a very literal science. It's all energy. We are all energy. This is what physics teaches us, right? And so sometimes we just need to be proactive in shifting our energy and shifting the energy around us. And even just a little like, you get out of work, you're like, all right, I'm going to leave that there. Right. And I'm going to go back. And maybe if you're in an environment like that, then what can you do in your workspace? Can you bring in something that you put on your desk that makes you feel good? Pictures, plants, something that when you look at it, it brightens your energy up if you have to be in an environment which maybe isn't, again, conductive to your best self. This can also be the books that you read. I've heard there's a saying, and I don't remember the entire quote, but basically, like, you'll be the same person next year, aside from the people that you meet, the experiences that you have, and the books that you read. And I think we underestimate the power of books. And most of us, myself included, I was an avid reader, when I was younger. And as we get older, we just stop maybe reading to that same extent. But books really powerfully shape our mind. They really shape how we see the world and how we think. So, what is everything that's coming in that's impacting your brain? Everything that's impacting your neuroplasticity, the way that you speak, the way that you talk. What are the words that come out of your mouth? Because it's going to be based on what the input is. All right. So today in our journal, we're becoming heightenedly aware of what's in our environment, but what can I shift? How can I strategically, proactively change my environment so that my environment and my lifestyle are setting me up for success? The easier you make things, the more likely you will to pursue them. We naturally are wired to move away from pain and towards pleasure. So when things feel good, it's just easier. So when we can set up our environment to naturally, easily feel good to support the best version of ourselves, then that journey in that reinvention becomes easier. And look for the things that are not serving you and cut them out. Cut them out. Now you might say, well, every time I hang out with my family, I feel drained and exhausted. Well, you may not want to cut your whole family off. I'm not suggesting that. I am suggesting that maybe you time that a little differently. Do you need to hang out all night? Can you limit that contact? Can you make sure that that contact is at times in environments that are more positive? Like, maybe that doesn't need to be a phone call every single day. Where can you start to set some boundaries to protect yourself? And if you struggle with that, if you struggle with setting boundaries, which I think a lot of women do, because we don't want to hurt people's feelings. We're deeply invested in relationships. Women are way more relationship oriented. We care deeply about our relationships and our community and being connected. So if that is a struggle, then a thought that I want to leave you with is that it doesn't need to be forever. It can just be for this season. Meaning that just for right now in this season, as I'm reinventing myself, as I'm becoming the best version of myself, I may need to set some stronger boundaries about my lifestyle and my environment than I will need to in a year. But right now, just for right now, as I step into this best version of myself, I'm going to set these boundaries. Again, not forever. I think sometimes when we say it's not forever, it feels easier. It's kind of like in, AA, they talk a lot about when people are struggling with addiction. Can you just get through 24 hours? Can you just get you can deal with tomorrow, but can you just get through 24 hours? So even in this reinvention, can you just show up as the best version of yourself just for 24 hours? I have a video on YouTube if you're kind of interested in that concept of basically structuring that it's just one day, 24 hours to be the best version of yourself and how that will multiply and change your life. So if you're interested in that, it is on my YouTube. Okay, so couple of quick things. If you don't have the workbook, this is where you can get it. All right. You can go back and you can work through all of the questions. I don't even know what day we're on. I think we're on day 15, I think. And there's 20. So we only have a few more days left with each other. If you're in the Hey Girl You Can community, a couple of quick things, head over into our private group and put in there, what are some of the things when you made your list, or maybe you even want to share your list? How many positives did you have? How many negatives did you have? None of us can eliminate all of the negatives. I have negatives on my list, right? What we're looking for is, can we create more positives than negatives? Right? So we want to make sure that when we see that list, there's more things that are positive than negative. Not that the negatives will be completely eradicated, right? We just want to minimize their impact so that we have more of that positive. So go ahead, drop in our community, share that. Also, if you're in Hey Girl You Can, in about 2 hours, or an hour and a half, we have our January Grow session. We're going to be doing a training on how to grow and scale a Facebook group. And so grab your pen and paper and join me over there. It will be recorded and it will be dropped into your portal. If you're not part of our community, guys, it's $8 a month. I hope you seriously consider joining us. You get 4 trainings a month with me. We have a private Facebook group. You get a library of resources, and you get that support system that you need. And then finally, the other way that I can serve you is that if you are looking for more of a total transformation, a deeper dive, you're like, okay, I'm in this reinvention journey, but I really need support in making some massive shifts. I want to reinvent my life this year on a big scale. The Total Transformation Day is coming up. It's only held a few times a year. It's an immersive day in a very small group. We work together very closely. It is a full day. We break for lunch, but it's about really evaluating where you are, everything that's working, looking at who you are, how you're wired, what your strengths are, what your joys are, what would be great for you. It's not a cookie cutter, it's very individual for you. And then creating and building what will become your dream life so that you are transformed and you leave with an action plan of what to do next, how to actually make that happen. It's very important to me that you don't just get inspired and then go back to your regular life, but that you get transformed so that you come out living a new life in the new best version of yourself. If you're not sure if that's a good day for you, we can always hop on a call and chat. Just message me. I'm happy to talk with you more about that. And then I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm not sure what time. I will get that scheduled. If you're watching the replay, though, please comment. Let me know where you're joining us from. And then have you just joined and starting the questions? Have you been going through the questions? If you've been going through the questions, I'd love to know the one that's had the biggest impact on you, the one that's had your biggest aha moment or maybe changed the way that you're thinking. You know, that first thing is when you can become aware. When you can become aware, that's your power. Because now you're not at the whim of everything else around you. Now you have choices. Even the choice to not make a choice is a choice, right? Even a choice not to change is a choice. And your choices are where you're powerful and where you own your life and where you step into the star of your story instead of just the, puppeteer and life controlling you. So thank you guys for being with me this morning, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.